for not only taking the time for your team, Matt, and your team, and Nate, and Tom, to not only provide these updates, but also for being great partners with industry. It's been a pleasure to work with these experts from Focus on Energy, and we really appreciate their expertise. And this information is very valuable. So, like Todd said, thank you to his group at WIG and the Wisconsin Cast Metals Association, as well as the Midwest Food Products Association, and again, Focus on Energy. So thank you for helping us host this, and I'll turn it back to you, Todd.
Great. Well, and Scott, I don't have much for opening remarks. I'd just say that our member companies often have some of the largest projects each and every year, and of course, on the regulatory side, WIG is working to mitigate things like rate increases. So, almost every utility in the state has some pretty extraordinary, unprecedented capital expenditure plans going forward. So the clean energy transition is going to put a lot of pressure on rates either this year or next year or in the coming years, and energy efficiency is one of those ways of mitigating those rate increases that will be coming soon. Again, if it's not this year, it is certainly over the next 5 years or so. It will be having extraordinary pressure on rates. So our company needs to do all they can to mitigate those increases. And of course, everybody has sustainability goals these days. And so our associations can help work on those offline. But today we wanted to really let Focus kind of walk through some of the new or different programs, or just give everybody a refresher on where we are with a number of these programs. So I'd like to introduce the folks from Focus on Energy here today to review the resources and opportunities we have. Presenting this information today is Nate Allfeather. Hopefully you all know him, but Program Manager for Focus's large industrial program. Also in the room, I have Chris Schultz with Marketing, and I also have Mike Plunkett, Focus Business Portfolio Manager, and of course Matt Bromley, Stakeholder Director for Focus, is here as well to help answer your questions you may have. But I think Nate will do most of the talking today. So unless there are any initial questions that are burning for member companies, if not, Nate, you can take it away.
Thanks, Todd. Yeah, thanks, Scott, also for the kind words. I don't get a chance very often to speak to a big group of our customers at once. So before I move to the next slide, I want to reiterate a little bit about what Todd and Scott said, and make sure to share a message that I think doesn't always come across clearly, and that is that it's easy to focus on your projects at your site being beneficial for you guys, which it is, and that's great, at reducing your bill, making you more competitive. But the really amazing thing for me is that all your projects are impacting everybody else in the state, your community members, residential ratepayers. So you're really champions and heroes in your communities, right, doing these projects. Energy efficiency is the most cost-effective way to build capacity on the grid. And I'm sure many of you have seen the numbers, but the returns to the economy are roughly 5 to 1 on the Focus costs. And you guys, as large industrials, as Todd said, often have the biggest projects and the most cost-effective savings. You really are the keystone to the entire Focus Energy portfolio. Without your participation, we wouldn't be able to have residential programs or anything else. So I just want to make sure that you guys hear that, right? Because I think it's easy to focus on your cost savings and that you're getting new equipment, and that's all good. That'd be great if that's all it was. But you guys should all recognize that by participating in this program and being partners with us, you are really champions across the state for all different ratepayer classes. So thank you for that, and make sure that message is spread. Okay, so most people on the phone know a lot about our program. I will briefly cover the basics, like Todd said, for a refresher. Sometimes it's even good for me to have a refresher. We'll talk about prescriptives and customs, talk about some of the special offerings that we have this year, and then most importantly, answer your guys' questions that you have. So I think you guys all know Focus Energy is a statewide program for energy efficiency, and that is nice because I always sing the praises about Wisconsin. I have experience in other states, and the fact that we have one program that is across the state so that vendors and trade allies and companies that have plants across the state in different utility territories don't have to understand different programs, right? Other states, they have to do that. It's like, oh, our one plant is in a different utility territory and they have different incentives and different programs. And I just think we take it for granted here, but it's really nice. The large industrial program uses energy advisors as an outreach mechanism. We really try to build relationships with all of you one-on-one and be there for whatever you need to make your participation easier. If you don't know who your energy advisor is, please reach out, because I know that they would be eager to make sure that you know them. So started kicking off the basics here. The easiest way to think about our incentives is that we have prescriptives, which I'll talk about in a slide here, and customs. And then we do have some funding for for assessments to look at potential projects to help get past that barrier to putting in energy efficiency projects. So prescriptives, these are your classic energy incentive where you can go on our website, you can see a fixed incentive rate per unit of some sort of technology you're going to put in. The classic example is lighting or VFDs. You can download an application form and see on your own that it's $50 per horsepower for a VFD or $80 per light fixture for this type of fixture, right? So you can make a project decision on your own, having those incentive rates known to you by looking on the website. And that's why you don't need pre-approval, right? You can see those incentives for your own and incorporate them in your project decisions. So no pre-approval is required. Just make sure that you're following the eligibility requirements on those forms. You absolutely can use energy advisors to help with this, right? I think of these as you can apply for these on your own. They're kind of designed to be a self-serve type incentive, but please leverage your energy advisor. They can help fill it out, answer your questions, make sure you don't accidentally miss an eligibility requirement. So even though pre-approval is not required, it doesn't hurt to include your energy advisor. There's a catalog that you can see online, and we can get printed copies to you if you'd like it. Some of the new stuff for 2024, there are some slight incentive rate increases on compressed air systems and lighting. And most exciting for me is that we've removed what used to be a 500 horsepower cap on prescriptive VFDs. So real big VFDs that are starting to become more cost effective, right? That are often decisions that need to be made really early in large project planning. You do not have to get pre-approval for a 1,000 horsepower VFD anymore. You used to have to come to us and get pre-approval, which really early in the project timeline would sometimes get missed, right? So no longer, these are prescriptive, so you can know what the incentive will be on your own, right? If you just keep track of that VFD incentive rate. All right, so then customs, those are all the prescriptives, or that's talking about prescriptives. Customs are how we make an incentive for you for anything that doesn't have a prescriptive incentive already created for it, right? The most important thing to remember for a custom is that you do need to get pre-approval. The entire theory of demand-side management programs like Focus on Energy is that we are causing projects to happen that wouldn't happen without our incentives or without our influence somehow, right? Or likely wouldn't happen. So if you sign a PO or start a project without even knowing what the incentive might be for that project, it's really hard for us to make the case that our incentive influenced your decision, right? With a prescriptive, you can look up and see on your own what that incentive might be, but for a custom, where we custom calculate the incentive for you, you need to have that approval in your hand before you make a project decision. So that's really important. Make sure you reach out to your EA and err on the side of checking for any type of project you have, any type of big investment. It's worth checking with your energy advisor. A lot of times we find after the fact that a project is getting done and the customer forwent, I don't know if it's, didn't choose an energy efficient option or didn't choose an option of the project that they didn't realize was an energy savings option, right? Or something they really wanted for quality or something, right? And in passing conversation, we hear, yeah, we were thinking about doing this, but we just couldn't swing it. And our energy advisors will say, we might have been able to get you an incentive on that, because yeah, it's a product quality item, but there is a reduction in energy per unit of production there also. So err on the side of reaching out and at least checking anytime you're making a big capital improvement. The incentives are calculated on our estimated first year electric and gas savings when it's a custom. We do require projects be between 1 and 10 year simple payback. It's a catch for us, it's a screen for us on that influence factor. All right, so I've talked about working with your EA. The standard caps are $300,000 for a single project, for a single incentive, and $400,000 per year per customer. However, a theme that you'll hear today quite a bit is that we always have the ability to provide an exception, right? These are our standard rules to protect our budget, but in some years we have bigger holes in our forecasts for savings and we have budget. And if you've got a good project that needs more money to happen, sometimes we can do that, right? So check in with your energy advisor and ask, say, hey, we could do this project, but we really need $500,000. Well, it's worth checking, right? And the energy advisors all know how to inquire about an exception. You can see at the bottom here our standard incentive rates. This is again based on an annual 1 year's worth of savings for your project, right? $100 per peak kW, 5 cents a kWh, and 95 cents a therm. Okay, so that's our prescriptives and our customs. Those are the meat and potatoes of our program, but we are always trying to create special offers to meet market needs. First one I'm going to talk about is our industrial staffing grant. There isn't a single industrial plant I've been to around the country in the last 10 or 15 years that has extra staff sitting around not doing anything. One of the biggest barriers we hear about why energy projects aren't being done is just, yeah, we know it's a good project. We know it's got a 3/4 year simple payback in theory, but we just don't have anybody to take care of it, right? So the staffing grant is designed to overcome that barrier. So you can ask for up to $100,000, limited to 50% of the estimated energy cost savings of a list of projects, to have either somebody in your company reallocated, right? And this money might justify with management getting some staff over here on these projects, or hiring an outside contractor to manage and just focus on these projects, somebody who isn't distracted by all the other things that need to be done at your sites. It does require pre-approval, just like our custom incentives. Anything approved in 2024, in theory, are supposed to be done by the end of next year. I hope most of you have experienced our reasonableness, right? Our goal is not to pull the rug out from anybody. We have these guidelines, to protect our budgets and stuff, but most often, we work with customers who, for example, let's say it's next December and the project's not going to get done until February 26th. We're not going to just take away your incentive, right? We'll do everything we can not to have that happen. But anyway, these are the guidelines. And down here in the bottom in red, this is a new thing that I want to highlight. It's related to our staffing grant. One of the things we've heard from the market is, yeah, we'd love to hire an outside firm to be our on-site energy champion and manage these projects and get them done, but they require upfront payment for their services. And the normal way Focus works is you don't get your incentive, including these staffing grants, until the project's done, which could be a couple of years, right? So to encourage, because we're really big fans of this idea, we'd love to build the market in the state for third-party energy management services from engineering firms and whatnot to come help get these projects done at your sites. So if you sign a contract with a third-party energy management firm to have an on-site person at your site to help get these projects done, we have now the ability to do up to 30% of your total staffing grant paid early on. There's a few things that we ask to get done just to make sure that we're covering our risks there, but you can get that 30% of your total staffing grant payment early before the projects are complete. And so you understand the theory behind this. We realize that if you're signing a contract with a third-party firm to help you get these things done, you're pretty serious about getting these projects done, right? So that makes it more willing for us to risk our money and put that out there early, because it's less likely that you're going to walk away and not do these projects.
Has anybody done this yet?
We do have a couple companies signed up with an outside vendor. Right now, there's one really strong contractor in the state that's doing this, but we're hoping as this gets out there, this grows, because this multiplies our energy advisors, right? Like right now in the large industrial program, there's about 100 to 120 customer sites per energy advisor. That's a lot. We'd love to have our energy advisors be at your site once a week, right, for a day. That'd be great. We just can't afford to. So if the market can help bolster our team and be on site, because it's undeniable that when you have someone on site, the beautiful thing about a third-party energy manager, right, is they're not going to get sucked into that other project that's not, sucked into your day-to-day operations, which we hear happens all the time with our customers. Someone has said, hey, you're going to be our energy champion. That's going to be 20% of your time. And within 3 months, they're sucked into other critical things at the site, right? If you're hiring someone, a third-party firm to do that, they're not going to be coming into building your paper machine or something instead. So we're hopeful for this, but it's just getting off the ground, and would love your help making this happen. So let us know if you're interested. Your energy advisor can help you out.
It would be pretty popular, I would think.
Yeah, I hope so. If it takes off, we can expand it even further. And again, we'd love to get more vendors, more contractors offering this service and build that market. Annual planning incentive. So we've had this actually since last year, but I want to say it out loud here because it's not taken off as much as we thought. The basic idea here is if you meet with your energy advisor in the beginning of the year and come up with a list of potential projects, you don't have to commit to doing them or anything. It's just kind of like an annual planning session with your energy advisor. Here are some energy projects. You might have something on there for next year. If management at your site or some type of an executive leadership from the company signs that list, which would also show some potential rough incentives for each of those projects, you get $2,500. It's basically $2,500 for a signature. And what we're paying for is making top-level management, the decision makers, leadership, aware of these incentives. Because we find a lot of times the people we work with, our point of contact, they know all about focus incentives, right? But the leaders who are looking out 2 and 3 years in the future about big projects, they're not as familiar. They don't know that there's some big money on the table, right? So that's what this is for. And we'd love to see 100 plants get this every year, right? The other benefit is it gives a chance for us to set aside any particular project we're talking about with you and look at the big picture. What do you guys have coming down the pike in 2 years or 3 years, and catch some of those big projects that you might not think of as an energy project. But when you talk to us about your plans the next 2 years, we see the energy potential there and the ability to create an incentive. So talk to your energy advisor. This should be pretty straightforward, creating that list, working up some approximate incentives, and getting some decision maker, executive management, leadership to sign it. PAI, I think I heard, Todd, you might have had some questions, or someone about, maybe Scott, about our incentives for studies. These do lead to some of our biggest projects, right, and most cost-effective projects, digging into something complicated at your site. Right now, this year, we can fund 50% of a study cost up to $15,000. Last year it was up to $7,500. So $30,000 study, we can pay for half. And like I mentioned earlier, if you have a really big opportunity, but it needs $20,000, right? It's a big study, so you need to go above this general rule. Bring it to our attention and ask, right? The worst thing that can happen is we can say, sorry, we can't afford it. But we'd rather have the opportunity to give you that exception and go above these amounts than not have that chance to even know about it. And the other thing that's new this year is our biogas biomass feasibility studies are rolled into our normal project assessment incentive. Used to be a standalone thing, so trying to make things a little simpler for you guys. We do, I mentioned our normal custom incentives we have a payback window of 1 year to 10 years. Again, that's for making sure we're having a realistic influence. If you have a project that has an energy payback of less than a year, we know there's usually other benefits also, so it's usually those move on their own, right? And then something that's over 10 years on energy, maybe there's a risk that there's a much bigger other reason that project may move forward without an incentive, right? So that's the idea, the 1 to 10 years. But we know with current economic conditions and whatnot, there are many reasons that really good projects that look good on paper still don't move forward, right? So if you have a project with less than a 1 year payback, we've got two ways we can still fund that. The incentive rates are a little smaller, 2 cents a kWh, 20 cents a therm. But one is if you can show us that it's been stalled for a couple of years, that's proof to us that, this isn't moving forward on its own. Even if it is a half-year payback, for some reason it's not moving forward on its own. You talk to us about why that is, give us that story. We can approve a low payback incentive for that project, even though it's under a year payback. The other thing is if the project came out of a focused energy study or your energy advisor identified it during a walkthrough or suggested it and you guys hadn't thought about it before, that's another way that shows our influence, right? So we can pay an incentive. It always comes back to influence. We want to make sure that we're influencing these projects. The worst thing these programs can do is just walk around and pay for projects that customers are already going to do anyway. Then we're not really doing anything with ratepayer money. So it's always coming back to influence. So that's the low payback or quick payback, right, for anything under a year that still needs help moving forward. I know there's often questions about renewables, so I threw this slide in here with our renewable incentive rates. PV is a prescriptive, but here you can see we've got the link here, and we'll send these slides out. And then non-PV, so biogas, biomass, wind, and solar thermal go through our custom program, but they do have higher incentive rates than our normal custom incentives. You can see those here. And lastly, this isn't exactly a special offer, but it's outside of the normal custom and prescriptive. Focus does have a new construction program, right, that specializes when you're doing a massive expansion or completely gutting a space and putting in a brand new production line or building a new building. Like many things, the earlier we know about it, the more we can influence it, the more we can help with incentives. So reach out if you guys are considering a new building. We use computer modeling and base our incentive rates on the improvements of potential measures on that modeled energy use of your future building. So we have a good team here that specializes in that. So do not forget about new construction. Strategic energy management, this is something that if you're interested in building your internal energy management human system, right? The people, how do you guys get better at building an internal continuous improvement program? Something like you might do for safety or product quality. We can help with that as well. Get a little time commitment on your side, signing up for our SEM program. The coolest thing about it is that it makes you eligible for incentives, this bottom point here, on operational improvements. Nowhere else in Focus can we, because operational improvements don't typically have a cost, right? They're low, no cost. Like if you're changing settings on something or or changing, process setting, or how things are moving around the site, or whatever, right? And it saves energy. If there's no cost, we can't provide an incentive to buy the payback. There's no payback, right? But if you're signed up for SEM and we're helping you seek out those operational improvements, then we can actually pay an incentive on the savings you achieve, even though there was no cost, there was no capital cost, or very low cost, right? This is the only place where the incentive can exceed the cost of the project, which is kind of cool. So, this is an untapped area for a lot of industrial sites, right? It's easy to think about our capital investments to save energy, but there's a lot of opportunity in just having someone come in and dig into, the data you've got on site about production and timing, and get sub-metered data and start asking questions like, why is this thing running all the time when it looks like it's only got throughput, half an hour, 4 times a day, that kind of stuff. And if you can buy a $100 controller to put a control on that and turn it off or turn it down in between the times we can pay an incentive that's bigger than $100 for the savings that you achieve with that kind of stuff. So it's an exciting thing. We've been doing it for a number of years, but it does take some commitment. It's a high investment on our side to dig in, so we want to make sure that you're committed on your end. It takes time, willingness to share data and whatnot. Okay, so that's the end of my formal slides. I've got some links in here so that you guys will have them when this gets sent out. And at this point, I'll pause and let questions or comments.
Yeah, I'll just do one to start out because I can't see everybody. We're not in the same room, so I'll start out with one, and then I got a couple others depending on member suggestions and questions. So I guess to start out, the only thing I have is that I maybe didn't hear is anything current for an RFP, anything that's going on right now that I should be aware of, or limited time only.
Yeah, we've actually instead of having a formal RFP with deadlines throughout the year, we are leaning on our exception. I'm glad you brought this up, Todd, because it's important. We're leaning on our kind of more formal exception process to allow higher than normal incentives on big projects. So the risk, of course, is we don't have a marketing piece that says, hey, RFP, right, 2 times a year. The benefit is you guys don't have to wait. If you need to make a decision now to order something for a plant shutdown in December, and you need more than $400,000, because that used to be the benefit of the RFP, is you could ask for whatever you needed, right? Well, now you can ask for whatever you need anytime throughout the year. You don't have to wait for an RFP, a formal RFP and a scoring and a decision to be made. Your energy advisor can help you inquire about the potential for a higher incentive exceeding our caps at any time. So that's really important to understand.
Great. Well, we help get the word out, so. Okay. Well, I'll be quiet then and see what kind of questions
One comment on the RFP too. We simplified that application too. It's 1 page.
Yeah, because it's an inquiry. Yeah, it's literally just an inquiry like, hey.
It used to be multiple and then the time consuming.
Right.
So really trying to make the process easier.
Yep, doesn't even require a signature from you guys. It's it's an inquiry like, hey, if we had a project that needs this much incentive, is that even a possibility, right, for focus? And we get back to you really quickly, a few business days.
Okay, great. Well, we got a lot of time for questions. I don't know if we need the whole hour, but it's nice summary. So hopefully we have good discussion.
So you guys have incentives for renewables, but I don't see anything on there for hydro. Is that an offering that may come in the future?
Good question. Yes, so we are interested in hydro projects, and it's something that we want to hear about. We have a subject matter expert now on staff in hydro. So if you have a hydro plant that's idled, that with some repairs, it could start generating electricity again, please let us know. That's a great question. Yeah, please let us know. It's kind of new territory for Focus, but it is eligible for existing hydro.
Anybody else have questions or concerns? take on everybody, we can also yield back the time, you know.
Well, hopefully it means that all of you feel comfortable by reaching out at any time, right? You have a good connection with the program and your energy advisor, and you got my number and my contact information here on the screen. And please, there's nothing more valuable to us than your feedback, right? Because that's the only way we know the challenges you guys are facing and how we can design some type of solution if we can, right? Is to hear from you. So if you're frustrated or you don't see an offer for something that you see an opportunity at your plant, but you don't see that Focus has an offer, please, please, please reach out, bring it up to us, bring it up to your energy advisor. We're eager to hear.
If, I have a few more if we don't hear from members. I mean, just, so in case there are, I'll throw a few out, I guess. Now, I think some of this may have morphed into other programs or, you know, just calling it by different names and stuff like that. But, I mean, it used to be called like investment grade assessments and things like that. And I take it that's, again, under stuff that you've already covered today.
But it's worth saying because it can be confusing because people don't see that name out there, right? We're trying to keep things simple and not have too many. One of the feedbacks we've heard from the market is like, gosh, you guys have a new name and new offers every year, right? And we have heard from you guys, what about bigger stuff? Like, what if we need more money for a study? And as Todd just alluded to, instead of having yet another application for a different study form, we want you to ask about an exception to the PAI, right? Just say, hey, I know the PAI is limited to 15 grand. We have this massive opportunity, but it requires a big engineering investment to look into something or understand how it affect our product or something, right? And could we, it's gonna be 60 grand, so 50% would be 30 grand. Is that an option? Is that a possibility? How's your budget looking, right? Use that exception form and reach out.
Do you still have anything coming up, or do you have in the past, industry best practices, guides and training and things like that? Again, I think that probably falls under other buckets, but anything new coming out?
Yeah, so we've just gotten done this year with the new pulp and paper guidebook, industry guidebook, which I'm trusting that almost all of our paper folks know our paper EAs and experts, Tim Hasbarg and Tom Dans, but if not, and you're on the phone and you would like a copy of that, reach out to me and let me know. But so that's refreshed this year. Otherwise, all the other guidebooks are still on the website, right? Which you're gonna test me here, but there's plastics, dairy, wastewater, metal casting.
Sounds about right.
I'm probably forgetting one, but
No, paper printing,
food processing,
food processing.
which has a lot of industrial refrigeration type stuff in it.
Again, probably falls under other things, but ISO 50001, I'm not sure I saw it. in
Yeah,
there.
so that we used to bring up 50001 with our SEM because it's in that ballpark. We also found that some people got scared seeing ISO, right? Because it's not always, that's pretty intense. And we have experts on our team that are trained facilitators and coaches in getting certified. And so if that's something you're interested in, we have people on staff to help. If you're interested in going all the way to ISO certification, there's also a 50001 ready, which is what's it called? Self-attested kind of thing through the feds that is, you get everything in place, but you just don't actually go through the certification. So we can help with that too. But yeah, we just don't formally call it out on our slides, but yeah, that's all under the energy management support, energy management system support. If there aren't any other questions, I would just ask that keep in the back of your mind, what's the biggest barrier to a given energy project happening at your site? You know, if people have ideas and they don't move forward, why? And that's what we want to hear about so that we can design something to try to address that why, right? So anytime you're at a meeting and they're discussing a potential energy savings idea and it can't go forward for one reason or another, be like, I should let Focus know about this, challenge. Because that's what feeds us. That's what feeds our designs and our ideas. So, yeah, that's all I would end with, is asking for your help and making us as good as we can be at helping you.
And it's your money, so you should take advantage of it.
Yep.
Get it back.
And it's a win-win-win. You get your money back and you're helping your community.
Okay. Mr. Suter, do you have any concluding remarks? Any other thoughts, questions you want to raise?
No, but I just want to thank everyone for participating. Thanks for joining us. We'll do this. We will continue to do this each and every year. And again, thank you to Focus on Energy and our partners for presenting this information. We'll also have this information and this particular webinar on our website, and we'll share that with anyone that would like a copy as well. So thanks again. And Todd, thank you to your organization, Midwest Food Products Association, as well as Cast Metals Association. Thanks again.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Again,
everyone.
We got the contact information up, and feel free to contact anybody here in this room, or
We'll send out
we'll
those.
be sending it out
Yeah,
soon.
okay.
Yep. All right. Great. Thanks, everybody.
Have a good day.
Thank you.